Well, it started with Professor Ashok. So I think Desh Pandey, whom you all know, is like a well-known Indian entrepreneur based out of US. He contacted Ashok to say, I want to start an optical networking company. Whom would you recommend? So Ashok was kind enough to say, Dr. Kumar, to being the CTO, and Desh did. And then he found our CEO and engineering head, Sanjay and Arnab himself, and then put us together and started Tejas. So Ashok was really instrumental, and he was on our board for the first 16 years. So the idea behind Tejas was to develop a telecom products company from India. So India was very well known for services. We had software service giants from India, and the idea here was to show that we can build products. Okay, and in the telecom space, because that's the space of interest to a lot of us, being in communication engineers, and for interest to Desh also. So India had just launched 2G, 3G itself was not launched. But anyway, our focus was on optical networking. At that time, optical fiber was just being laid. Okay, so roads were being dug up to put the plastic tubes, and then they were going to lay optical fiber. So it was almost predating the time when fiber was laid and being ubiquitous today, right? We all have fiber everywhere. So we started at that time, and we sort of built up with the Indian telecom growth, initially focusing for the first 20 years only on optical networking. So we did backhaul for mobile operators, 2G, 3G, 4G, and various kinds of optical technologies. We did WDM, we built networks for across the country. So that was optical for 20 years, coinciding with the fiber deployment and networking in India. So initially, the belief was India can do software, but hardware we cannot do. But we found out that designing hardware is really a skill that we also had, because a lot of hardware was getting designed in India in the engineering services companies and in the captives of the multinational companies. So there was a lot of hardware design talent. Getting it manufactured was a different ball game altogether. There was very little hardware manufacturing in India in the 2000s. So we actually used to get it manufactured outside. So in the first 7-8 years, we used to get manufactured in Jabil in China, of course, which is now a no-no. Then we manufactured in Thailand. But about 5-6 years ago, we moved everything to India. So now for many years now, I've been manufacturing in India. And that coincides with the ability to manufacture in India. A lot of electronics manufacturing has come up in India in the last 10 years. And once that started to happen, we moved everything to India. So those are the challenges for a product company. Other than that, the main challenge for any product company is going to be to find the amount of investment it takes before you can be profitable. So we were lucky to have Desh and other investors, mainly led by Desh, who invested at least $50 million before we turned a quarter of profit, and over $100 million before we could take the company public. And this is over 17 years. So that kind of patient investors who are willing to invest a lot of money for the long term is really what it takes to succeed with the product. So we started wireless. So we do some projects as almost like a research project, right? So we started, one of wireless started as a small project to see, what we could do. And we focused on fixed wireless as an application. So the idea was internet needs to reach everybody. So it will reach most people through a wire, fiber. But mobile internet is not good enough. So you really want a fixed wireless to give you higher speeds in rural areas and so on. So that was the focus for wireless in Tejas. So we built it LTE based and for fixed wireless. But then when and it was just complementing our optical play. But when the opportunity came in 2020, when the government asked a lot of startups here, can you build a mobile wireless solution, both RAN core? We were one of the companies which raised our hand. And then, the number of system integrators, the big software companies came forward. And TCS, we were lucky, came forward and partnered with us for the RAN and CDOT for the core. And the rest, as they say, is history. So then we became a Tata company a year and a half down the line, and we got into wireless thanks to encouragement by the government and our partnership with TCS. Yeah. So as a subsequent to our partnership with TCS and CDOT for the core, we did a proof of concept trial for BSNL in a few different cities, and following that, we got an order for 100,000 sites to be deployed. Okay, over the course of 2024, 23-24, and a lot of those sites will be in rural areas for BSNL, where 4G is not available. 4G now comes there to BSNL. BSNL has always been very strong in the unserved areas, that we go where other operators may not go because of commercial viability. And our 4G is getting deployed by BSNL. So we will hopefully bring 4G to many people who have not had 4G before through BSNL. So first of all, I have high regard for IIT Madras. I'm an alumnus. Professor Bhaskar and Professor Ashok were all my teachers. Actually, there's a direct link. There's a company started out of IIT Madras called Midas Communications. Okay, so pretty much our entire wireless team, including our leader for wireless, Rene Abraham, and his team, all came from Midas. So they're all IIT Madras alumni. So we have leveraged all the efforts that IIT Madras did over a few decades in wireless technology directly by using the same team in Tejas to build the 4G technology. So that's the most direct link you can get. And subsequently, after we became a Tata company, we have done a couple of things. Professor Bhaskar is on our board, of course, and gives his advice. And we've also licensed most recently the 5G technology that IIT Madras has developed. And we intend to use some aspects of the technology in our 5G products as well. And we've established a research park office right next to CVIT, so we can collaborate more with CVIT and with IIT Madras. Yeah, so today it's very hard to think of the economy minus your mobile phone, right? So a lot of the segments that you name are driven by just being able to go online and order. So the whole online economy is booming, and it's mostly mobile phone. People rarely order from their laptops. So that's sort of a given. Now, this needs to also go to rural areas, which means people need good mobile connectivity, not just a 2G where they can make a call or get an SMS. They need to be able to browse products, use smartphones, and 4G. So I think taking 4G everywhere is the first step. And this needs to be institutionalized when we go to 5G and 6G. Now, 5G has already happened, and there's not a lot of 5G in rural areas. But India has recognized that we can't have this new technology coming first to urban areas and then going several years later to rural areas. So India drove, DOT drove in the ITU that 6G, one of its goals should be ubiquitous connectivity. So hopefully, if all that works out, when 6G comes, everybody will be connected on 6G without saying, okay, first 5 years we'll do urban and then rural. And getting 4G to rural means the economy there will progress in the same way it has done in urban area, right? So maybe you'll have Zomato and Swiggy in your village or some equivalent. Somebody will start, I can supply to all the surrounding villages in that taluk. So once you have that, applications will come up. Once you enable it, having connectivity is like having electricity, and then you can sell, appliances, right? So once you have connectivity, you can sell applications. Well, India is one of the leading markets, if not the most, right? So India is where everyone tries to be. We have 1.2 billion people. 200-300 people are like upper middle class who spend a lot of money. So India is, from a network deployment perspective, whether it is for 4G or 5G, one of the largest markets in the world. And even our middle class population compares with the developed world. So it's no longer about, low paying subscribers. If you average it out, the ARPU is less. But if you just, data consumption wise, we are one of the largest. Of course, a function of competition, which is good for it to be less from a consumer point of view. But data consumption in India per subscriber is one of the largest in the world. I don't have the data at my fingertips. So we are very important market, if not the most important market in the world for telecom. Now, I think the government realized this and have decided that we should take advantage of this and promote Indian telecom firms. So the Atmanirbhar project of the government is giving us encouragement, Tejas and other vendors as well, which we welcome so that we can use our position to build companies here, which will then serve the global market, right? I mean, you should have companies from India who are serving the Indian market and the global market. Of course, we also welcome foreign companies serving us because we need competition. The world needs competition. India needs competition, but we need to have our share as well. That's our goal. Our goal is to be a global telecom and networking OEM, because we are not only in telecom, we're also getting into other areas of networking, routing, switching, and so on. For the world, we are based out of India, but our goal is to serve the world. Of course, India first, and then the rest of the world. Even now, we have a reasonable share of our optical revenue, which is international, 30-40%. The aim is to get that for wireless as well. So we want to be balanced between India and the world, really be a global company. The proudest moment at Tejas Networks is to be able to build this network, nationwide network for BSNL to roll out 4G and 5G. I think this I view as a culmination of actually my career, okay, pre and post and in Tejas. After working here, we have an opportunity to really make a big mark on the nation and become a global player as a telecom OEM. So this today is actually my proudest moment. If you are from IIT, so there are multiple people who set up the systems in research park. So let's first take faculty, students who go out and form companies, right? Usually they have a very good idea, but they don't have any idea of the marketplace or what it takes to succeed in terms of what the product should do, what it should not do, what is not necessary. So I would strongly encourage the technocrats from IITs who tend to be CTOs to go and first understand the market, understand who will buy, what they will pay, what is the real market, and then build to that as opposed to building something that you know how to build. That's my first message. Second, don't neglect the business aspects. Get a CEO, okay? So don't underestimate running a company and say, okay, I know how to build a product and that's enough. There are many, many more aspects to building a successful company. So probably a collaboration with some graduates from IIM and the graduates of IIT or professors of IIT and IIM is a good idea to build a better business. And for companies who are there, who just came into Research Park to establish thing, we collaborate with IIT Madras. You have to understand that faculty have good ideas, sometimes far more than you can absorb, but they can't give you anything which is in finished form. So you have to know how to take the germ of an idea that will come from the intellect of people at IIT and then incorporate it yourself. So that last part is your job as a company, not IIT's job.